Discover the incredible journey of a billionaire, hidden as a tomato seller for 3 years in Searc. The sun burst over Searc, wrapping the sleepy Midwestern town in a warm embrace. Tom Wilkes, once an emblem of unyielding wealth, now stood under a sun-bleached awning, proudly displaying baskets of vibrant tomatoes. The whispers of his past life as a billionaire masked behind the simplicity of leafy green vines filled him with strange solace. Each plump fruit gleamed with promise, a stark contrast to the emptiness of his sprawling penthouse that felt more like a fortress than a home. In this quaint farmer's market, families buzzed around like bees, exchanging smiles and laughter reminiscent of a bygone era. Each interaction, each story shared, pulled Tom deeper into a world he had once overlooked, the lives of hard-working families struggling to make ends meet. As he handed a ripe tomato to a cheerful child, Tom's chest swelled with a warmth he hadn't felt in years. This was real, this was life. And yet a shadow lurked behind his heart, a secret identity clung to him like a heavy cloak. What would happen if they knew who he really was? Among the crowd, the Ramirez family stood out to Tom. They had been regulars, their smiles bright against the backdrop of their burdens. As he watched them, he saw that same cheerful child fistful of tomatoes and his heart ached. Their vulnerability, impending eviction due to soaring rents, was something he couldn't just turn away from. With every conversation, a deeper bond formed. Tom saw clearly now, it was not just tomatoes that nourished gardens, but the very connections he was building. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the plight of the Ramirez family thickened, the buzz of the market shifted from laughter to hushed concern. Tom felt that familiar tightening in his chest, guilt mixed with a yearning to help in a way that matched their need. Planning meetings sprung up, a fundraiser, a bake sale, anything they could do. He listened, his mind racing with the conflict of his desires. Could he really reveal who he was? Would it unravel the connections he had worked so hard to create? Just as the community rallied to organize, an unexpected rumor took flight around the market, targeting Tom's past. Paranoia rippled through the gatherings, and the bonds of trust began to fray. Friends who had embraced him were suddenly wary, uncertain. Torn between his newfound purpose and the fear of being discovered, Tom felt a crushing weight. He sat alone, fingers coiling around a tomato, contemplating the cruel irony of wealth. Could it ever replace the warmth of belonging? With whispered confrontations echoing around him, Tom faced the reality of his charade. His secret lay heavy in the air. Would he reveal himself and risk losing everyone who had come to mean so much, or would he keep his truth buried beneath his heart? The clock ticked down, and the crossroads loomed. Each moment pulsed with urgency, leaving Tom painfully aware of what was at stake, the community he had grown to love. The next steps would define everything, but which way would he choose? The next market day dawned with a sense of unease hanging over Searc. Tom arrived early, his heart pounding against his ribs. As he unpacked, each tomato felt heavier, laden with the weight of his secret. The vibrant colors of the produce stood out against the gray clouds that threatened rain, mirroring the turbulence in his soul. When the Ramirez family approached, Tom forced a smile, but their eyes were clouded with concern. They had heard the rumors, the whispers about the man behind the tomato stand. Domineering shadows flickered across the faces he had come to cherish. Mrs. Ramirez's warm smile faltered, replaced by a cautiousness that made Tom's heart sink. "Mr. Tom, are you all right?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. His mind raced, 1,000 answers tumbling over one another. What could he say? The truth felt like a boulder lodged in his throat. "I'm fine," he lied, but the quiver in his voice betrayed him. The little boy clutched a tomato, his innocent eyes searching Tom's face for reassurance. It struck him in that moment, a heartbreaking realization: the child was afraid of losing a friend. Tom saw the budding connection with their family crumble. Could he let that happen? Did he want to? Around them, the market continued to buzz, but Tom felt an unbearable weight of isolation. He glanced around, seeing wary looks from other neighbors, their laughter tinged with suspicion. It stung deeper than he imagined. Each familiar face was now clouded with doubt. Time seemed to stretch agonizingly as he watched a once tight-knit community begin to fragment. Maybe it's time, he whispered to himself, the words barely escaping his lips. No more hiding. The thought rushed through him like a storm. With every heartbeat echoing in his ears, Tom felt the urge to shout, to share his truth and trust in the bonds he had created. Each connection mattered far more than the riches he'd abandoned. Tom reached into his pocket, pulling out a weathered piece of paper. It was an invitation to the fundraiser meeting planned for that evening, an effort to raise money for the Ramirez family and others struggling to keep their homes. Deep inside, he knew he needed to attend and, perhaps, reveal who he truly was. As the final market customers filtered away, Tom gathered his courage and approached the small stage set up for announcements. The air crackled with anticipation. He could see the concerned faces turned toward him, eyebrows raised, some arms crossed defensively. Everyone, he started, his voice trembling yet steady. I need to tell you something important. Gasps rippled through the crowd, a tidal wave of tension and curiosity. Tom felt their eyes, heavy with judgment and concern, all focused on him, waiting for revelations. I'm not just a tomato seller, he paused, a lump forming in his throat. The hum of market chatter faded, and he could hear the faint rustle of leaves nearby. I'm Tom Wilkes, the billionaire. But it's not who I am anymore. The stunned silence was absolute, broken only by the sound of a single tomato rolling off the stand and crashing to the ground, a metaphor for everything that was about to unravel. As he held their gazes, uncertainty mingled with hope. Would they accept him? Would his truth further fracture their community, or would it heal it? The crossroads they were at loomed large, but he stood ready to face whatever came next, even if it felt terrifying. In the distance, thunder rolled ominously, echoing the tumult within him, hinting at the storm of emotions yet to unfurl. Would he find acceptance on the other side, or would this reckoning send him crashing back into solitude? Only time would tell. The eyes of the community bore into Tom like arrows. He could feel their disbelief hanging in the air, thick and pungent, just like the tomatoes he sold. What had he done? A single bead of sweat trickled down his temple as he stood on that stage, poised between the life he had abandoned and the new world that was slowly taking shape around him. Mrs. Ramirez was the first to find her voice. Tom, why didn't you tell us? Her words were edged with a mix of disappointment and confusion. Other murmurs escalated, each a thread pulling at the fabric of his newly sensitive reality. I thought, he stammered, if you knew I was rich, you wouldn't see me for me. I wanted to find out who I was without it. The honesty felt raw, unfiltered. It was a truth wrapped in vulnerability, something revolutionary in a place that prided itself on honesty and trust. A heavy silence settled, but then, fueled by their shared disbelief, discussions erupted. Some murmurs were sympathetic, others were resentful. Tom watched as familiar faces contorted in surprise, and the little boy he'd grown so fond of stared at him with wide, innocent eyes, still clutching that tomato as though it were a lifeline. Josh, a fellow vendor who had always teased Tom about spending too much time at the farmer's market, raised his voice. You're telling us you had all that money, and you chose to sell tomatoes instead? That's crazy. His brow furrowed in skepticism, but underneath it, Tom saw a spark of understanding. Tom grasped at that spark. I wanted to connect with all of you. I wanted to know you. He glanced at the Ramirez family, know you beyond labels and expectations. It was the truth, and it spilled from his lips as seamlessly as the rain that began to patter on the pavement, mixing with the gasps and whispers of the crowd. I thought maybe we could help each other, he continued, his voice growing more assertive. I want to be part of this community. I want to help the people here, to support the fundraisers, to be someone who matters to you, not just as a symbol of wealth, but as a friend. A flicker of hope ignited somewhere amongst the crestfallen faces. Tom held his breath, searching for any sign that his words took root. And then, slowly, the little boy stepped forward, parting the sea of adults with unexpected courage. "Mr. Tom," he said, his small voice rising above the growing storm. "I don't care if you're a billionaire. You're still my friend, right?" He gripped the tomato tighter, as if offering it as a bridge. The tension cracked open like a lightning bolt slicing through the dark sky. A ripple of laughter mingled with gasps, and emotions warred within the crowd. Could it really be that simple? But that thought danced away as Mrs. Ramirez's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "If you want to help us, then let us talk," she said softly, drawing the others' attention. "We need it. But we want to know you, not just the billionaire, but Tom. Can you do that?" Tom nodded, relief flooding his veins. This was it. A fragile connection was forming, one he desperately hoped would withstand the storm rising around them. As the first drops of rain began to fall heavier, signaling the unsettled weather matching the turbulence within them, Tom felt something change. Perhaps there was hope, perhaps this was the beginning of mending bridges. He looked around, absorbing the faces of friends, neighbors, and those who had turned into something much more profound than mere acquaintances. "Let us work together," he finally declared, a smile breaking through the tension. "I'll help organize tonight's fundraiser. Let us turn this storm into something beautiful." But as the clouds rolled in, darkening their small town, Tom felt a twinge of apprehension. Was the storm just a harbinger of change, or was it something more? Would his newfound honesty bring less resistance, or would it drive deeper wedges? The answer seemed to swirl just beyond his reach, and through the downpour, he was left wondering, as he extended his hand, would anyone choose to take it? Would the seeds he planted lead to growth, or disappointment? Only time could show him the path ahead. The rain fell harder, drumming on the metal awnings and turning the streets into glistening rivers. The warmth of community started to thaw the coldness in the air, but Tom still felt an anxiety deep in his gut. Mrs. Ramirez's eyes didn't leave his. A flicker of something determination, perhaps sparked in her gaze. "I appreciate you wanting to help," she said, breaking through the downpour with her steady voice. "A fundraiser could change a lot for us. But what we need even more than money is trust. Are you ready to share the real Tom, the one beneath the surface?" Her words struck Tom like a fierce wind, knocking the breath from his lungs. Could he really share all of himself? The truth felt massive, like a stone threatening to sink him. A part of him wanted to retreat, to find comfort behind his carefully built walls. But the little boy's innocent question echoed in his mind, planting seeds of courage. "Absolutely," he replied, and each word felt like mixing heavy soil. "I want to show you all of me, who I am, what I've been through. Even if it makes me vulnerable." He took a step forward, leaving the safety of the stage. The crowd shifted, their once hostile energy morphing into something more gentle. They were leaning in, the rain tapping a rhythm that matched the quickened beat of his heart. Josh moved forward, his body language softening. "Look, Tom, it's not just about the money," he said. "It's about why you're here. You could have stayed in your fancy world." We all wanted to understand that better. Tom sighed, the weight of uncertainty lifting a bit. "I thought money would bring me joy. Instead, it left me empty. So, I came here. The farmer's market felt real to me. But I know the truth isn't easy to share. I have so much to learn about your lives." The crowd murmured, and he could see flickers of understanding in their eyes. Maybe they were starting to bridge that gap, a connection forming amid the rain and vulnerability. A woman near the front stepped up with a tattered umbrella. "Then let us start right now. What do you want to know about us, Tom? We are a community, not just people selling tomatoes and bread. We have struggles like anyone else." Her brave spirit lit a fire inside him. He nodded, ready to listen. "I want to understand your stories. The challenges, the joys, the everyday life. That's what I need to truly connect." They began to share, stories rising like steam in the cool air, each one pouring out raw and heartfelt. Tom listened closely, finding pieces of himself in their words. The single mother who fought to provide for her kids, juggling 2 jobs in a struggle against the tide of bills. The retired couple recounting golden years spent nurturing a community garden. They all faced obstacles, yet there was love woven through their tales, a bond stronger than he'd felt in years. With every story, the clouds seemed to lighten, and the rain slowed to a soft drizzle. The sense of isolation he'd worn like a heavy quilt began to fray. He wasn't just an outsider anymore, he was reaching for something bigger, a sense of belonging. As the last story concluded, a warmth enveloped him that was unlike the money he had once relied on. "This is what I want to be part of," he said, finding his voice trembling with sincerity. "And I hope you'll give me a chance to show you how I can help." A silence fell again, and Tom held his breath. Would their newly forged connection survive the tides of doubt and speculation? Then, slowly, a ripple of nods began. Mrs. Ramirez stepped closer, her expression softening. "All right, Tom. We can give this a chance. We'll have your back if you have ours." That connection he yearned for was inching closer, but the looming clouds still threatened. What consequences lay ahead as he opened the door to his past life? Would there be backlash, or would acceptance bloom like a flower among the storm? As he cast his gaze across the crowd, Tom knew one thing for sure: the journey was only just beginning, and the storm inside himself was far from over. Would he find the answers he sought in the midst of such chaos? The uncertainty lingered, but so did the glimmer of hope. The air felt charged, thick with a blend of promise and trepidation. Tom sensed the first gusts of acceptance brushing against his skin, and his heart surged with an unexpected warmth. As he looked at Mrs. Ramirez, he could see the faith behind her eyes, the very same faith he longed to feel for himself. But with every step forward, the shadows of doubt lingered, whispering reminders of his past. People began to break away from their small clusters, moving closer to him. Tom felt the weight of their gaze, a mix of expectation and curiosity. "Maybe you can help us with something," Josh said, taking a position beside him. "We've been struggling to come up with fresh ideas for the market. It's not just about selling anymore, it's about creating experiences, making connections." Tom swallowed hard, the pressure mounting. "I'd love to help with that," he began. The words felt like a lifebuoy tossed into the turbulent sea of their needs. "Let us think about workshops, or music. Something that draws people in. We could bring in local artists, maybe host community nights." Ideas flowed freely now, the crowd buoyed by a sense of hope. Each brainstorm built the atmosphere into a buzzing whirl of enthusiasm. Tom noted their excitement, but shadows loomed large in his mind. "Still," he added, trying to ground the soaring spirits, "it's going to take time. We'll need to be patient." He saw the slightest shift in their faces, a flash of uncertainty that echoed the fears he held close. Would new ideas be enough? Would he ever truly be one of them? The sense of belonging he craved was tantalizingly close. But would he keep losing himself along the way? Suddenly, a shout pierced through his thoughts. A sudden commotion broke out on the far side of the market. A child, slipping in the fresh mud from the rain, stumbled dangerously close to a table laden with produce. Tom's instincts kicked in. Without thinking, he dashed forward and scooped the kid up right before he hit the ground, cradling him securely against his chest. "Whoa there, buddy." He chuckled, ruffling the child's wet hair. The boy's mother rushed over, worry straining her features. Thank you," she exclaimed, relief flooding her voice. "He can be so reckless." As Tom set the little boy back down, he found himself surrounded by smiles. The incident sparked laughter, drawing the relaxed, warm energy back to where it belonged. Mrs. Ramirez beamed at him. "You really are one of us, aren't you?" But behind that joy lingered something deeper, a sense of meaning washing over him. Perhaps it wasn't about the money, or flashy ideas. Maybe it was these small moments, the connections, the willingness to be present that mattered most. Yet, in the back of his mind, a lingering knot tightened. He could feel past shadows creeping in, casting doubts over the smiles. What happens when they find out? He thought, cold fingers wrapping around his heart. The crowd began to disperse, laughter drifting down the street as they departed, but the uncertainty loomed just as threatening as the clouds above. Would they still accept him if they knew all he had hidden? What if they turned away when they discovered who he really was? His thoughts spiraled, and he took a step back, instinctively searching for an escape route within the crumbling walls he held around his heart. But the threads of connection he had just begun to weave were too strong to snap. The promise of a new beginning shimmered ahead, but so did the potential for chaos when the truth came tumbling out. Would they still stand beside him in stormy weather, or had he stretched their trust too thin? As those quiet, storm-filled thoughts settled within, Tom took a deep breath, understanding that this was merely the first chapter of a much longer story. Accepting the challenge of being vulnerable meant unraveling a tapestry of fear that had tightly bound him for too long. But could he dare to show the world the real Tom, the one filled with both light and shadow? The answer lingered on the tip of his tongue. It was time to dig deeper, and the next step would reveal his truth. Would they welcome him with open arms, or would the storm rage on? Tom stood there, the vibrant colors of the market swirling around him, yet inside he felt a growing storm. The laughter of the crowd faded, replaced by the echo of his own heartbeat. Every cheerful face felt like a reminder of the secrets he carried, the burden of truth pressing hard on his chest. "Hey, man, you okay?" Josh's voice broke through his reverie, concern etched across his features. "You seem a little lost." "Yeah, just thinking," Tom replied, forcing a smile. He couldn't let his friend see the cracks in his facade. "This place, there's something special about it." Josh nodded, his eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "Let us keep that momentum going. What if we kick off the new workshops next weekend? We could start with a family event. Get everyone involved: games, music, food. It could really draw people in." "Perfect," Tom said, his heart lifting slightly. The thought of bringing everyone together ignited something in him. It was a move toward belonging, a way to contribute more than ideas, a chance to become a part of this community. And maybe we could highlight some of the local businesses during it. Showcase their products, really connect people. Love it. I'm on it. Josh's excitement was infectious, pulling Tom momentarily from the weight of his thoughts. But as they strategized, Tom noticed how quickly laughter could turn to scrutiny, how thin the line was between acceptance and rejection. The laughter began to dwindle, and the vendors started packing their stalls. Each fading smile gave way to something deeper inside him, a fear he couldn't shake. What would they think if the truth came out? The perfect image of himself, tailored to fit into a community, would crumble like wet cardboard. He felt like they were building a beautiful tower, layer by layer, and he was terrified the foundation would give way beneath it all. Just then, a loud crash jolted him from his spiraling thoughts. A stand tipped over, sending fresh fruits rolling across the muddy ground. Tom and Josh raced over to help. They squatted down, gathering the scattered apples, oranges, and tomatoes, their hands slick with rain-soaked grime. "Maybe the market needs a rainproofing plan," Tom suggested half seriously, his attempt to lighten the mood. "Good idea," Josh responded, chuckling. They tossed the fruits back onto the stand, but Tom caught sight of something glimmering amidst the muck. He reached down, pulling out a small silver locket, tarnished but unmistakably beautiful. Curiosity piqued, he opened it carefully, revealing a faded picture of a woman with a radiant smile. His heart ached at the sight, not knowing whose it was but feeling an odd connection. "Whoa. This is nice. Someone's got to claim it," Josh said, glancing at the locket, but Tom's mind was elsewhere. "Yeah, I'll find the owner," he muttered, slipping it into his pocket. Another layer of worry settled like a weight. What if it belonged to someone here? What if they recognized it? As the last vendors finished packing up, Tom hung back, watching the throng dissipate. He could see the bonds forming, the smiles exchanged, but he felt further away than ever. It struck him then, to be accepted would mean opening the door to all his truth, the darkness he was so desperate to hide. Could he do this? Could he let them see who he'd been before he came to this quiet little haven? Or would the revelation tank everything he was trying to build? As the streets grew quieter, the question lingered in the air, heavy and unshakable. Tom swallowed hard, his heart racing. Would revealing his deepest secrets be the downfall, or the very thing that brings everyone closer together? Deciding he couldn't wait any longer to find out, he took a step forward. He had a locket to return, and perhaps, a truth to share. But as he approached the flickering lights of the last stalls, the hair on the back of his neck bristled. Someone was watching him closely. His instincts flared to life, and he moved cautiously. Who was it? What did they know? The night was just beginning, and it felt like the storm was brewing once more. What would happen when the truth finally surfaced? Tom's heart raced as he turned slowly, scanning the dimly lit area around him. The market was nearly empty now, shadows playing tricks under the fading light. He squinted into the darkness, his instincts roaring as he searched for the source of the prickle on his spine. In the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a figure standing just beyond the final stalls, half concealed behind a stack of crates. The silhouette was too familiar, and questions lodged in Tom's throat like shards of glass. How could it be? Hey! You, he yelled, trying to sound authoritative, though his voice wavered. The figure froze, then so did Tom's breath as recognition flooded in. It was Clara, the woman he had met briefly at a community meeting last month. Tom. Her voice carried the weight of surprise. She stepped into the light, revealing a mixture of relief and concern etched across her features. What are you doing here? Tom asked, tension crackling between them. I didn't think you'd come to this part of town. Clara looked down, hesitated, and a small sigh escaped her lips. I wasn't sure I'd run into anyone, especially not you. She crossed her arms tightly, as if holding herself together. I came to check out the market, but, well, I've been looking for something. He raised an eyebrow, curiosity surging. Something? The locket, she murmured, her eyes widening slightly. I lost it a while back. I can't believe I'd find you here. Everyone said you were getting people involved, making a difference. Tom's heart raced again, but now it was mixed with a whole new fear. You lost a locket? This one? He pulled it from his pocket, the glimmering silver reflected the light, shimmering like hope against the backdrop of their uncertainty. Clara took a step toward him, her expression turning earnest. Yes. That's it. She reached out, her fingers brushing against his hand. Tom felt an electric thrill at the slightest touch, but confusion still clouded his mind. He wrestled between returning the locket and keeping it. Would he lose the connection they had if he handed it back? You didn't say anything about losing it before, he stammered, not wanting to let go of this unexpected moment shared between them. I didn't want to draw attention to it. It was personal. I thought it might just be gone forever. Her eyes softened as she looked into his, searching for something he couldn't define. The locket felt heavy in his palm, symbolic of hidden layers, not just Clara's past, but his own turbulent history weighed down by secrets. I don't want the truth to hurt you, he said slowly, unsure how to bridge the gap between them. Or make things awkward. This made her pause. Peter's not around anymore? She asked, the softness of her voice juxtaposed with the weight behind her question. Tom blinked, startled. Peter? What does he have to do with this? You're not referring to the "we were engaged," she interrupted, her voice quiet but firm. I've been trying to break free from that chain, and seeing you at the market it made me feel like I could. His thoughts spun like a whirlwind. You were engaged? What happened? I realized I was losing myself in his shadow. I wanted something real, Clara admitted, her vulnerability striking a chord deep within Tom. The night air hung around them, thick with unspoken truths. If Clara was standing here, holding back parts of herself, then perhaps he could too. He thought of the community workshops, of transparency and trust. What if we both took a chance? He proposed, heart pounding with possibility. Clara's eyes searched his, seeming to weigh the gravity of his suggestion. What do you mean? Let us start being honest. About who we are and what we want. Together, maybe we can. He trailed off, suddenly aware of the stakes involved, both personal and intertwined. As they stood there, caught in a web of possibilities, unsure of where this moment would lead, one question loomed large in Tom's mind. Was this the truth they both needed? Or was it simply another layer of the facade they both sought to shed? In that quiet space, the storm inside him ebbed just enough to make room for hope. But as Clara opened her mouth to speak, the distant echo of footsteps broke the moment, an intruder in their fragile honesty. Tom turned to see another shadow looming behind them, and panic flickered to life once more. Who else was drawn into the storm? And were they ready to face whatever truth lay ahead? The footsteps grew louder, echoing in Tom's mind like the thrum of a heartbeat. He turned, his heart hammering in his chest, aware that an unseen presence was intruding upon their fragile moment. The shadows parted, revealing a tall figure, a man with a rugged appearance and an imposing stance. "Tom," the man said, his voice gravelly, as if he hadn't spoken in days. "Clara." Tom's instincts kicked into overdrive. "Who are you?" he demanded, narrowing his eyes. The man's intense gaze flicked between them, assessing. "Just a friend," said the newcomer, his expression unreadable. "But it seems I've arrived at quite the interesting time." Clara's demeanor shifted, her confidence faltering as she glanced at the man. "Eddie, what are you doing here?" "Came to check on you," he replied, his tone more protective than Tom was comfortable with. "You shouldn't be out here alone, especially not in this part of town." Frustration bubbled within Tom. "We're both adults here. Clara can decide for herself where she goes." Eddie smirked, clearly unimpressed. "Doesn't mean it's safe?" He crossed his arms, blocking any chance of escape, his body radiating intimidation. Clara, sensing the tension, stepped closer to Tom. "I'm okay, Eddie. I was just talking to Tom." "A little too close for comfort, don't you think?" Eddie challenged, the challenge in his voice sparking anger in Tom. Tom clenched his fists. "Maybe it's none of your business," he shot back, feeling a surge of protectiveness toward Clara. "She doesn't need you hovering over her." Before Eddie could respond, Clara interjected, her voice steadier than before. "Eddie, I appreciate your concern, but I'm fine." "Really?" She turned to Tom, her expression softening. It's complicated." "Complicated." The word hung in the air, deepening the tension like a storm cloud gathering above them. Tom could feel his throat tightening, the questions looping in his mind. What did Eddie know? Why was he here? As if sensing Tom's growing agitation, Clara reached out and placed her hand lightly on his arm. "Let us go somewhere safer. We can talk there." Her touch pierced through the moment, knocking the breath out of Tom. Instinctively, he turned toward her, feeling the warmth of her hand just beneath the rush of confusion. Yeah. That sounds." He stumbled over his words. "Sure." Eddie, however, wasn't ready to yield. "You don't know what he's capable of, Clara," he said, his voice low and filled with warnings. "You're playing with fire." Tom bristled, feeling a heat rise in his chest. "Leave her out of this. I'm not a threat, and I want to let you treat her like one." Clara's eyes darted between them, searching for some kind of resolution. "Please, let us not do this. We can go just the three of us." "The three of us is a bad idea," Eddie snapped, his tone sharp. "You don't know him." The shadows around them felt like a trap, the air thick with emotions and not just the kind that fluttered in anticipation. Tom sensed the danger in Eddie's protective posture and in the look of hesitation on Clara's face. "Clara," Tom said, his voice softer, "we can figure this out. We need to talk. Just you and me." But before Clara could respond, Eddie stepped forward, the intensity of his presence a barrier. "You don't have a say in this, Tom. I won't let anything happen to her, not on my watch." Just as the tension reached its peak, a faint siren sounded in the distance, slicing through the atmosphere, momentarily catching them all off guard. Clara's breath caught, and for a fraction of a second, uncertainty crossed her face. Maybe that would solve everything, Tom suggested, trying to break the tension. We all need to get out of here, away from whatever this is. Clara's expression shifted, her eyes flickering with determination. You're right. But we need to decide quickly. An alliance formed, however shaky, and a new layer of complexity settled between them. Eddie's protective instincts clashed with Tom's desire for authenticity with Clara. As they stood at the edge of something complicated and fraught with uncertainty, the siren's wail grew closer, and Tom realized that whatever truth lay ahead would demand courage from all of them. But the most pressing question, heavier than the shadows closing in, remained. What secrets lay behind Eddie's warnings? And could they all truly face what awaited in the darkness of the night? The siren was a haunting melody, a wailing warning as it cut through the tension, reminding them that they were still in the real world. Clara's grip tightened on Tom's arm, pulling him back from the brink of confrontation. Eddie's stance softened just enough for Tom to catch a glimpse of the underlying worry etched into his features. Okay, Clara said, her voice steadying, let us move. We can talk more down by the coffee shop. It's a busy area. We'll be safe there. Tom nodded slowly, his heart still racing from the confrontation. He wanted to defy Eddie and protect Clara, but he also knew that a secluded alley in the night wasn't the best place to figure out their next steps. Fine, he agreed, glancing at Eddie. Lead the way, but just remember this isn't just about you protecting her. Eddie frowned but didn't argue. They made their way through the night, the path illuminated by flickering streetlights casting long shadows behind them. The sounds of nearby traffic created a backdrop to their uneasy silence. Tom's mind raced with thoughts that overshadowed the sound of their steps. Once they reached the coffee shop, the bright lights felt like a refuge. The smell of coffee hung thick in the air, almost comforting. Clara led them to a booth in the corner, the lamplight bathing her in a soft glow. Tom slid into the seat across from her, and Eddie slouched down next to her, protective as ever. Now, can we talk? Tom said, his voice quiet but firm. Clara took a deep breath, her eyes aflame with sincerity. I need to ask you both to be honest with each other. Eddie, I know you're worried about me, but I'll make my own choices. And Tom, I know we've just met, but I can feel there's something real here. Tom swallowed hard, the weight of her words settling over him like a warm blanket. What do you mean real? I mean, she hesitated, glancing at Eddie. When we're together, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. And it scares me. I'm not just going to throw that away because of some past mistakes. Past mistakes? Eddie interjected, his voice tense. What mistakes are we even talking about? What does he really know about you? The challenge hung in the air like a thundercloud. Tom clenched his fists, feeling unfairly put on trial. But Clara stepped up, her gaze fierce. Enough, Eddie, she said, her voice raising slightly above the quiet buzz of the cafe. You don't get to dictate who I have in my life. I've been protecting myself from people like you, who think they know what's best. But I need to face this, whatever this may be, on my own terms. Tom's heart raced, a mix of admiration for Clara's boldness and worry for the confrontation about to unfold in front of him. Suddenly, the reality of their situation hit him hard. This wasn't just about their budding connection, it was a tangled web of pasts, secrets, and shadows that could pull them under if they weren't careful. Then, just as Clara's words settled, Tom's phone buzzed violently against the table. All three heads spun toward the sudden noise. He fumbled for the device, his heart sinking as he recognized the caller's name. It was his brother. Tom's stomach twisted. What did he want? A wave of memories crashed over him, dredging up every fear he'd buried. Reluctantly, he answered, feeling what lay beneath the surface of their discussion shift once more. Hey, yeah, it's me, he said, his voice shaking as he met Clara's curious gaze across the table. His brother's voice traveled through the line, a tone laden with urgency. Tom, you need to come home right now. It's about Dad. The cafe faded into the background. Tom's world narrowed down into the stark reality of his brother's words. Shadows fell over him, darker than before. What did his father want now? As Clara and Eddie continued to stare, a whole new set of questions filled the air, the fear of the unknown creeping in, thick and heavy. What awaited him at home, and could he return to this fragile connection with Clara afterward? Tom felt the weight of choices closing in, tighter than before. The sirens might have faded, but the real storm was just beginning. Tom stood at the edge of a precipice, caught between the world he yearned to embrace and the past that still haunted him. The voice on the phone was a thread pulling at him, tugging him back to a family he thought he could leave behind. "I'll be right there," he said, urgency flooding his veins. He hung up, and the momentary silence in the cafe felt deafening. Clara's eyes were wide with concern as Eddie's protective demeanor shifted to one of wariness. "What happened?" Clara asked softly, her expression pleading for an answer. Tom took a deep breath, feeling the enormity of his reality. "It's my dad," he said, a tightness creeping into his chest. "He's calling me home. I don't know what he wants." He paused, sensing the weight of their gazes on him. "I haven't been back in years, not since I walked away from that life." The truth hung heavy in the air, his heart wrestling with emotions he thought he had buried. Clara reached out, her hand brushing against his again, sending a surge of warmth through him. "What if this is your chance?" she whispered. "To confront what you've been running from." Eddie crossed his arms, looking skeptical. "Are you sure you want to dive back into that mess? You've created something good here, Tom. Do you really want to uproot it?" "I don't know," he confessed, the vulnerability rendering him raw. "I never asked for any of this being here, feeling this connection with you both. But I can't ignore my family, either." As Tom's voice trembled with uncertainty, Clara leaned closer, locking eyes with him. "You're not just running away, Tom. You're building something real here. Don't let your past pull you back into darkness." Her sincerity resonated deep within him. But doubt crept into his mind. What if he went back and lost everything he had built so carefully? What if revealing his truth to Clara meant losing her as well? "I'm scared," he admitted. "Scared of what they'll try to pull me back into." Eddie shifted, his arms uncrossing. "Then go back, but go with a plan," he encouraged, his voice oddly supportive now. "Stand firm. You've changed, don't let them drag you down again. This is your chance to show them who you've become." Tom looked at them, gratitude mingling with his fear. They were right, the only way to truly move forward was to confront his past. But the thought of stepping back into that life felt like a plunge into icy water, a shock to his system. A heavy silence enveloped the table, punctuated only by the distant hum of the cafe. Finally, Clara broke through the tension. "Whatever happens, we'll be here when you get back, right, Eddie?" "Of course," Eddie replied, a newfound respect for Tom gleaming in his eyes. "Just stay true to yourself." Tom nodded, feeling the unwavering support surrounding him. He swallowed hard, his heart racing. "All right, I'll go," he declared, resolve swelling within. "But when I come back I promise to bring all of myself with me." The thought brought a flicker of hope. "We'll figure this out together," Clara said softly, her voice like a lifeline. As Tom stood up to leave, he glanced at the locket. "This is yours," he said, holding it out. "You deserve to wear it, Clara." With tears welling in her eyes, she took the locket, her fingertips brushing his again. "Thank you. It means more than you know." Tom turned to Eddie, his expression softened. "Thanks, man. For being who you are." "Just looking out for her," Eddie replied with a nod, the underlying hostility evaporating away like mist before the sun. As he walked towards the cafe door, Tom felt lighter, as if the weight of his past had begun to lift. Each step forward was its own act of bravery, a choice to confront the unknown instead of retreating. When he stepped outside, the crisp night air greeted him like a cool embrace. The stars shone brightly overhead, guiding him toward whatever awaited. And though dread lingered in the pit of his stomach, hope soared as well. He was ready to face his father. He was ready to own his story. Finally, he could shape the narrative of his life past, present, and future into something beautiful. As he walked away into the night, determined and resolute, a voice in his head reminded him, every ending was just the beginning of something new. And for the first time in years, Tom felt truly alive. And for you, it's time to take action on the journey we've just experienced together. This is the moment to show your support and subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of the exclusive stories we have coming up. Don't wait not even one more second to leave a like. It's crucial for feeding the algorithm and helping us grow. We want to hear from you. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Finally, share this incredible transformation instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey. Only true fans know how important it is to support the channel through these actions.